take your work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously, says Clint Eastwood. How about it?
I think it's so difficult. I think it's so difficult in a culture where we have to take everything seriously, we have to try our best, and we have to perform, and we have to show up, and trying to be doing everything right and competing and trying to be perfect. And then if you go then into other teachings of mindfulness and trying to be more present and being aware, the idea is to flow more. And this is really interesting because sometimes this can be misunderstood in the way that there's carelessness, or that you don't care about your work anymore, you don't care about your life, and it's this idea that it's passive. You don't have to put in the effort, you don't have to achieve. And that's why I think this quote is very challenging, because it's getting that getting the balance, thank you, the balance between both sides of when to take it seriously and then when to let go, that dance between when to put in the effort and then when to leave it to the universe of what's going to happen. And I would say it's going as far as doing your own, like your own personal best in terms of effort and the time and energy that you want to spend and invest in something. And then don't take yourself so seriously is when you kind of sit back and say, I've done my best, and accepting that. And it's not passive is what I really want to emphasize. There's so much strength and empowerment and courage in saying, I've done it, now I'm moving on. And what I get in return, or how this shows up, is a reflection of how it's going to happen with the universe. Nothing on me. It's not personal on me. I don't know how that sits with you.
Yeah, it's this idea of identity again. So and this is something that parents have a very hard time with, because the role of a parent gets really strong on us, like it's somehow ingrained. And when we get this chance of being the parent, then we identify ourselves too much. I'm also thinking about this differentiation that I think Brené Brown did for the first time between guilt and shame, because it's a very fine line. But shame says I am bad, and guilt says I did something bad. And it takes me there, because whenever we feel that what we do is us, we are stuck in shame somehow, and we make it mean like it's us. But when we realize, oh, I've done something bad, but this doesn't make me a bad person, it just says I did a bad choice. It was a bad choice. That changes everything. And that, yeah, it can be guilt, but it's not as toxic, let's say, as the shame that I am bad, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's more of, I am not the behavior, and I am not the feeling, and I am not the action. And that also is very empowering, because once you are identified with something, the idea is, what is your identity? And then you can't change your identity, and your identity becomes you, and you keep adding more to that. But once you are able to step away from that, it's very empowering, because you have a choice. So I chose to behave in this manner today. Tomorrow, I will choose differently. I chose to have this action in the morning. In the evening, I choose differently. And it's very empowering to be able to do that.
Yeah. And it's, I'm thinking of the labels that we use with children so often, if we don't pay attention to it. We tell them, you are like this, you are like that, and it stucks. It's on them then. Yeah. And that's why there's a strong advice there not to use labels with children and with ourselves. And I for instance, if I write to you or to one of the colleagues, right, that, oh, I was such a bad mother today, I immediately get, there is, hey, it was a tough day, you're not a bad mother. Right? immediately you get this dissociation, this difference between who you are and what you did.
Absolutely. And it also makes a person feel, I want to say, good. For a child to know, or for a person to know, that the way they behaved at their worst of times does not define them, does not make them who they are, is not something that's stuck with them, and that they can choose to do something different, is very beautiful and very liberating as well.
Yeah.
I actually want to go back to the first half of the quote, where it's take your work seriously, because sometimes when we go to the other side very much, when we tell a child, you know, it's okay, you didn't do this, it didn't work out, it's okay. And it's really the idea and the balance between the two of take your work seriously, which is like give it that attention and focus and respect, and give it that, and then let go. And I think having that first part is important, to put the attention and to put the focus and to really give things their time and what is needed, but then to really then let go of the results. I really think it's a beautiful balance between the two.
I like that you emphasize this, especially in this multitasking world that we live in. We are not made to multitask. We are not, and we are not able to multitask. So teach them to focus on what they do, but and it starts with us also, right? If I am with my child, I'm not with my phone. If I am with my child, I don't talk on the phone to my friend, because you know how often parents say, oh, the minute I take the phone, the kid starts whining. Yeah, it's normal, because then I'm not there with them anymore. And I call them sensors of presence. You know, it all started from a gas sensor that it started going off in one of the in a neighborhood house. But kids are just like that. They are the sensors of presence. They sense immediately when we are not present, and then they start, mommy, 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 and or daddy, daddy, and we are, hey, I'm here, but we are actually not. When they start saying mommy, mommy, and we get annoyed with it, that's like the gas sensor turning on. Like, be careful, there's something going on, and you are not 100% here. Your body may be, but not your entire being. So take your work seriously. Don't multitask. Yeah, I'm glad you emphasized that.
That's really an interesting point, because taking our work seriously doesn't mean that we just like pour all our, like kill ourselves over it, and that if it doesn't happen, we keep going at it and we really go out of our way, and then we make ourselves feel guilty, and then there's the shame that we didn't do enough. Seriously can just be, like you mentioned, with our focus, with our attention, with that respect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and knowing when to take a pause.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.